Thank you for visiting our channels today. Kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. Turn on your notification to receive new video alert. Like and share this content. Thank you.
Thank you for.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and fellow enthusiasts, it gives me a great pleasure to sit before you today as the moderator of this webinar. I humbly welcome you all to this insightful webinar on navigating the evolving landscape of library services in the wake of artificial intelligence. Let me first of all appreciate the TechUp Librarians, my dear team members, for the hard work we have put together to ensure that we are all here today. Thank you so much. I also appreciate our guest speakers who have agreed to share the wealth of knowledge with us. I equally appreciate everyone who has joined the webinar from across the world today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is undeniably expedient to acknowledge the fact that in today's advancing world, between technology and creating access to knowledge has brought us new challenges and opportunities. So what are we picking? We can no longer ignore the potentials of technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning languages in delivering smart information services. The question we must then answer are we going to be part of it? Leave the process of a part of the collateral damages. This webinar intends to shed light on integration and synchronization of artificial intelligence into library and information services and explore the balances between traditional service and innovative services. But before we commence, we need to highlight the objective of the webinar. So quickly, I will share the screen so that we can all go through the objective of this webinar. So can we all see the screen I'm sharing? Please, you can use the chat session to answer me if you can see the screen.
Hello, we can see the screen. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that prompt response. Okay, thank you. So basically, we have four objectives for this training. The first one is understanding AI roles in libraries and information centers. We will unravel the ways in which AI is shaping library services, from automating our routine services tasks to enhancing user experiences and expanding the accessibility of information with AI tools, such as intelligent search system, chatbots, virtual library assistants, and recommender system. I don't know if we have heard about some of these tools, but today we are going to understand what they are and what we can use them for to enhance our services. The second objective is exploring ethical implications. As we embrace the capabilities of AI, we must also navigate its ethical dimensions, such as data privacy and the responsible use of AI in libraries. The third objective is adapting to changing user needs. We will explore strategies to tailor services, collections, and attractions using AI-driven insights. And the fourth objective is collaboration and innovation. We will also explore how libraries are collaborating with tech developers, researchers, and other stakeholders to create innovative solutions that redefine the library experiences. However, before our speaker are invited on board, we need to highlight the rules of participation. This will ensure a successful outing today. Please, can I also see the screen? I need response, please.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the first rule is that
Yes.
we encourage every
Yes, we are seeing
participant
the
to
screen.
introduce themselves. This is the first thing we need to do. So you need to introduce yourself properly. You need to indicate your full name, indicate your email address. The full name will be written in the way you want them written in your certificates. So your email address is also needed. This is where your certificate will be sent to. You also need the country where you are connecting from as well. These three things are very, very important. And then Mrs. Richard Sunita, one of our team member who is from South Africa, will take record of all participants who introduce themselves properly. So please, it is important that you introduce yourself properly. As we progress, we continue to re-emphasize this. Thank you. So the second rule is that we encourage a respectful and inclusive environment for all participants. Try as much as possible to engage in a thoughtful and considerate conversation using the chat session. This is very, very important. And also, we need to ensure a smooth flow of discussion. Our esteemed facilitator will be working within the ambience of the time allocated to them. And we value your participation. Feel free to post questions. Please, the question and answer section should be very, very useful for us today. Please post all the questions you have concerning the webinar and the discussion. Mr. Alake and Mrs. Alice will do justice to that. They will address all the questions and present them to our speaker for adequate response. And also, you are encouraged to join the conversation online on all our social media platforms after today's webinar. We also would like to inform you that as we speak, we are currently recording this webinar, so we'll make them available on all our social media platforms. As we embark on this enlightening journey together, let's keep in mind that this webinar serves as a platform to foster learning, exchange ideas, and inspire collaboration. By the end of our time together, we hope you will walk away with a deeper understanding of how AI is reshaping the library landscape and a renewed sense of enthusiasm for the boundless opportunities that lies ahead of us. Thank you for joining us, and without further ado, let's begin this exploration of the evolving landscape of library services in the wake of artificial intelligence by introducing ourselves. Please remember, you introduce yourself using your name, your email address, and the country you are connecting from. So thank you very much. So in the next 30 minutes or less, we will use that for introduction before we invite our first speaker, Dr. Sholo Owolabi, who is already with us on board for his presentation. So thank you very much. Okay, Mrs. Sunita, she's raising up her hand, so she will take notes of everybody that introduced themselves properly. Please remember I said properly. Thank you.
Good day, sir. Can I just take a few minutes of your time to all the participants? I've posted my email on the chat group. Please,
Okay.
it'll be better if people just email me their details
Okay.
for the purposes of the register. That'll be faster as well, and it'll save a bit of time.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. I think that is a better alternative. So please, she has posted her email in the chat session. Try as much as possible to send. You can copy it down now and send your details to her, possibly during the session or after the session. And there's something I have not mentioned. Please, I have here with me my pen and my jotter. Please try as much as possible to get yours before we invite our speaker on board. Please, it is very, very important. Thank you so much. So let's start introducing ourselves. We'll take note of everybody that introduce themselves.
Good day, everyone. My name is Sunita Richard. I'm from the Msunduzi Library Services. I'm presently a librarian, and I'm from South Africa. Hello to everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alice Musonda Mwape. I'm a librarian from Zambia. I am with the Ministry of Education with Zambia Library Service and also a part of the TechUp team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I'm Sunday Jolayemi. My email is sundayjolayemi2020@gmail.com. My Gmail is sundayjolayemi2020@gmail.com.
Thank you so
From
much. Sir.
Nigeria.
You can as well put that in the chat section. We'll take note of it.
Okay, I joined from Nigeria.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm a librarian. I'm a college librarian from Tomade International College, Oko, Kwara State. Thank you.
Hello, good day, everyone. Good day, everyone.
You're welcome, ma'am. Good day, ma'am.
I am Fola Kolawole, a librarian from Lee City University, Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Henry Mwanza from Zambia. I'm an assistant librarian, special collections and e-resources from Lungushi University, Zambia.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed Baba. I'm from the National Library of Nigeria, headquarters, Abuja.
Thank you. Thank
Hello,
you,
everyone. My name is Ronke Odurai from Lee City University Library, Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. So we'd like others to keep introducing themselves. We have less than 15 minutes to do that before we introduce our speaker.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Lucky Ogwribe.
Okay.
I am from Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Assistant Director, Library Services, Abuja, Nigeria.
Okay. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Chewe Mumba, Sub-Librarian, Kwame Nkrumah University in Zambia.
Okay, you're welcome.
Good afternoon,
Thank you.
everyone. My name is Bello Gania Tolayinka. As an assistant librarian from Kwara State University from Nigeria.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Ismail Salihu, a librarian, former librarian with NNPC Abuja. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is John Wonderful. I'm a law librarian in JK Gazama LLP in Abuja. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. My name is.
Hello.
I'm from the University. I'm assistant librarian. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Olabisi Ogunbenro.
You're welcome. Where are you connecting from? Where are you connecting from, Mrs. Olabisi?
From Elizabeth University,
okay.
Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Mrs. Weston.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Nissan Karam. I'm in Stores British Information vocational school, teaching for kids from age 3 or 4 to 20.
Okay, so I did not get that. Where are you connecting from?
Egypt.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Artificial. You know, artificial.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Happiness.
Oh, Happiness.
From Covenant University, Ota, Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I know Dayo. I'm a fresh graduate from University of Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Timidayo. I think I can see. It is also important that we also introduce ourselves in the chat session. Please, this is very important as well. Thank you. Mr. Maro, you are here to introduce yourself.
Regarding your participant to introduce themselves. Have you read it?
We have more people. We have over 30 plus people that are here to introduce themselves.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
My name is Mansur Nalado from Kaduna State University, Kasu, Nigeria. Email address is mansurnalado86@.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for joining us.
Good. Reading section.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kao Madaka.
Okay.
I'm a lecturer in the Department of Library and Information Science at the University of Zambia, and I'm joining you from Lusaka.
Oh, thank you so much from Zambia. So I think we have Mr. Malo Boy Happy, and we equally have Mr. Augustine. You are here to introduce yourself. Are you having difficulty with your mic, Mr. Augustine?
Yep. Good afternoon. My name is Augustine Azikwo, staff librarian at TechUp Library, University of Zambia, Nigeria.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. August. Thank you for joining us. We have Mr. Maro Boy Happy. Can you kindly introduce yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Juma Bulos, have you introduced yourself, ma? Okay, for those that are just joining us, please, you have to introduce yourself, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, then mute yourself back. Then you need to also introduce yourself using the chat session as well. So you introduce yourself in this format, your name as you want it written in your certificates of attendance, your email address, and the country you are connecting from. For those that are just joining us, please do that. We have a few minutes to go before we bring our first speaker on board.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Felicia Yusuf. Pleased to be on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, ma. Where are you? Oh, she almost said that. I think I can see Phoenix Alt 21, Alt 12.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Omojima I'm an assistant librarian from Confluence University of Science and Technology, Osara, Kogi State, Nigeria.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
happy
Thank
to
you
be
for
here.
joining us.
You're welcome.
You should also introduce yourself during the chat session, please. It's very important as well.
I've done that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So please, if you are just to introduce yourself, can you do that while we prepare to bring our first speaker on board?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kaula Kanyemba Mwanza, librarian from the Livingstone College of Education, Livingstone, Zambia.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us from Zambia. Infinix Alt 12I, can you please introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Rachel Luatosi Adewolu, a serving corper at Fusla University, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, Mrs. Rachel. Is it Mrs. or Miss Rachel? Thank you for joining us.
Rachel.
Okay. So while we await others, we still have more people that are yet to introduce themselves. I don't know. Can I introduce you now? Okay. Okay, so you can do that. Okay. So in the course of the first speaker presentation, you can always introduce yourself using the chat session. This is very, very important. This will allow us to take our statistics. Thank you so much. So without wasting much of our time, permit me to bring on board our first speaker, Dr. Shola Emmanuel Owolabi. He's a reading habits expert, life coach, librarian, playwright, poet, and entrepreneur. He's currently a lecturer and librarian at Bells University of Technology, Ota, Ogun State, Nigeria. He has over 42 publications covering journal articles, chapters in books, conference papers. He speaks at conferences, seminars, and workshops in Nigeria and, of course, other parts of the world. He's a Nigeria representative for the Global Vision in Manchester, United Kingdom. He is at the vanguard of youth reformation and orientation in Nigeria. He deploys the use of bibliotherapy and cinematherapy to educate young people on several issues relating to peer pressure, drug abuse, illicit sex, illiteracy, social media addiction, and several others. He is the author of the library book, a book that is circulating in Nigeria with over 10,000 copies already sold. You need to get your copy, please. So you are welcome, sir. I'm very honored to bring you on board, sir. Thank you so much. Dr. Shola Owolabi.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. This is afternoon Nigeria. In some other parts of the world, it may be morning, afternoon, night, or middle of the night. So we are all welcome. So I'll just say good day, or in French, whether night or morning, you say bonjour. So I say bonjour to everyone. Good day. So we are privileged to be together as a family today. Sincerely, listening to people from different parts of the world brought good pimples on my body. I said, wow, people connecting from different parts of the world. This is a great one. And I'm so honored to speak to you this afternoon. Sincerely, it's going to be a knowledge sharing experience, not a teacher-student gathering, since I know some of us are also experiencing the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning and other expert systems technologies. So I'm sure that we're going to really share knowledge together. So to start with, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see that, sir.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
So we are looking at navigating evolving landscape of library services in the wake of artificial intelligence. As a matter of fact, we're going to make this class simple because most people, when we hear of artificial intelligence, we begin to think of programming, several issues brought together. But if you see what I've written here, it is certain that artificial intelligence is real, but tools for learning more powerful and cheaper artificial intelligence tools are coming on board. Sincerely, a lot of things that we think are so expensive are becoming cheap. And then one experience I had when I was to publish my book, The Library Boy, was that I was looking for the artist to publish the book for me. It spent a lot of money to do the cover page. But with artificial intelligence, you can generate your pictures and all that now, and giving it just some command languages or just some description of your needs, you have whatever you are looking for. This does not, but it helps a lot to be able to freely create content and stay on our own without depending on anyone. But what are we looking at today is that artificial intelligence is not something that is completed. A lot of people are scared when we talk of computers, when we talk of use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all that. But the purpose of artificial intelligence is to simplify learning, is to make our works easier. And then look at when I was using Canva to design things, I was trying to learn use of, what do you call it? CorelDRAW and all that. But with the use of Canva, you don't need to learn CorelDRAW, just know how to edit whatever is on the Canva platform. You're able to do your design and several other things. I've done a lot of posters and then send them across the globe just using Canva. That is something simple made available for us. So with what we have here, sincerely, we have a lot of opportunities to maneuver and do whatever we want to do in the field of library and information science. But I was asking myself, why this trouble? Why are we doing this? A lot of people are saying that, some people say, some people are now tech experts, they are tech wizards. You know, a lot of things people are saying about people that use technology to attend to users' need and all that. But the truth is that we have reasons to migrate or to embrace the departure philosophy. Number one is that focus is more on user now than even the providers of information or managers of information. The end user, and we must know that there are several generations of end users. We have the generation X, Y, Z, we have the millennial, we have several of them, and we must be able to attend to all these people in the same library. A generation Z student will say that I don't need your books. I can go online. How do I convince this guy to come to the library? So we need the use of artificial intelligence, then the shifting control. Control is not at the center any longer. You cannot say that you control the flow of information, but you moderate the flow of information. Everybody has access, whether arbitrary access or correct access to information. The child at home has access to adult content, their peer group content, or whatever. Now, how does the librarian coordinate this. So we are information coordinators now, not controllers, because control of information seems to be out of hands. And also we are shifting from ownership to access. You don't have to have a particular information in your institution or your library, public, private, school, academic, or whatever library. You just need to have access to information. Then there are escalating expectations. People want librarians to be able to do several things. If librarians only go to shelves and give people books, then we have moved from there. The librarian of the 21st century is different from the librarians of then. There is embedded librarianship now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about our background as librarians. And that is why librarian is the richest, or the library science is the richest of all courses. If I were to ask some of us, let me give maybe about 5 people opportunities to talk about their subject background. Mine is communication language art. Do I have someone that can give me a subject background? Anybody?
Oh, please, we can unmute ourselves to quickly answer that. Mine
please,
is
can you ask that question again? Please, can you ask that question?
Okay, let me have your subject background. Mine is communication language art.
Business education accounting.
User education accounting, thank you.
Business education accounting.
Business education and accounting, okay.
Religious studies.
Geography.
Geography, thank you very much.
Accounting.
Accounting, thank you.
Religious studies.
Religious studies, can you imagine that?
Agricultural science.
Agricultural science, that is number 5. Thank you very much. So,
English education.
English education, thank you very much. But it seems librarians forget their backgrounds when they are in the library. In the field of communication language arts, then I did literature and all that, drama and all this. So that has influenced my study area. I did children literature. I focused more on that. Then for my PhD, I focused on reading habit. Then I've been looking into bibliotherapy and cinematherapy. That is using books to heal and media to heal people, that is to correct orientation and all that. Then how do I synergize this together? So you see a librarian going into film production, movies production, then you say, no, you have deviated from librarianship. No. How do we encourage children to read? So we produce a short movie, tell this child, this is the benefit of reading. And then the book I wrote of recent, The Library Boy. Making that, now we can now do animation of that. Then when it is animated, we can go into cartoon. And children now can rush to this, and then with certain tools, with AI systems, RFID technology, I'm coming to that also, to manage our resources in the library. Combining all this together, we can make library attractive. And that is the essence of our coming together. It is not demonstration of expertise or whatever. It is for us to get challenged, and then we'll begin to now look at how we can make impact in our libraries. So people have escalating expectations. They don't expect librarians to give them books. They have access. They come to the library. They can go to the shelf by themselves. Some even have access to other online resources. Some people use cheat codes to be able to access some information that some librarians cannot even access. Subscribe to Science Direct, EBSCO, and all that. But even some people have even been proving that these people are exploiting us. So how do librarians give access to other forms of information for people to use in the library? If your library cannot subscribe to Science Direct, how do you meet the needs of library users? Then we have evolving roles and culture. Librarians are evolving, and we don't know what we are yet going to be. And this is coming to the Ranganathan theory or principle that the library is a growing organism. I will also add that librarian is a growing organism. Every librarian has to continue to evolve. And then the environmental culture is changing. People are embracing digital culture. And how do we key into the digital culture and also be the master of the culture? We now have cyborg librarians. You know, several people have different form of librarian. There's one I saw online, wizard librarian. I said, wow, wiki librarians. You know, several things I imagine based on the digital culture that we are going into. And then there is noise versus silence. You know, if you go online, several people are making noise, saying a lot of content. Young boys are making, and the library says silence. There's noise in the library. How can we match the two together? There are librarians making noise now, and I appreciate it. I'm one of them, and I have several of them. That we are going into the city with knowledge. We are going into the city with information. We are going to the city with repackaged access. Afraid of coming to the library. How do we take them? And we need to use digital tools to be able to meet their needs. Then also, why are we doing this? Generation merger and adoption. We have the Generation Z, we have the Millennium, Generation X, then we have baby boomers. And we look at the years, the baby boomers are our fathers or our grandfathers, people born 1994 to 1964. All these people want to have access to library also. We must allow them access to the library. So how do we do that? Then Generation X, that is people born within 1965 and 1979. How do we cater for them? And expert they are performers, they are on the field. Many of them don't have access. They are bothered about family management and all that. How do we cater for them? Then people born 1980 to 1994, the millennia. And then look at the Gen Z, the Generation Z, which is 1995 to 2015. These are, as a matter of fact, I cannot be talking about their characteristics. If you begin to pick the characteristics of each of them, one after the other, we may not leave this level. But there is a merger now of all this generation in the library. Everyone wants to use the library. And then we have to adopt every one of them. And how do we adopt them without conflicting our roles with one another? That is the essence of technology, artificial intelligence, expert systems, and other tools in the library. So we look at artificial intelligence plus RFID, that is radio frequency identification, that gives us smart libraries. And when we look at artificial intelligence, which has to do with using intelligent databases to be able to bring information based on request. We have processes that are involved in them. How do we combine these to meet the user's needs? So number one, we look at artificial intelligence and radio frequency identification number. These two, we see them as the most popular. There are other ones like the expert system, which is also used in the library for decision making and all that. Then we look at what do they do. They identify objects with AI and RFID. When we tag our books in the library, artificial intelligence can recognize the tag that is on the book. I'm going to give us vivid description of that later with pictures. So when it captures that, it can tell us information about the book. Cataloging and classification becomes easy. Z39.5 compliant materials in the library, you can begin to catalog your resources online, and you see that you don't have to begin to input resources into the computer one after the other, looking at the vessel page, and then you begin to type. All these things have been taken up by the use of RFID and artificial intelligence. So you just scan, and then automatically it comes in. Sometimes you have to use your then it gives you the information. Then you can edit to suit your library. Then it helps in tracking of objects, that is books in the library. Then we will predict behavior. That is what can happen in the next minute. If this book has been borrowed, will it tell us that it's only one book that is in the library? You don't have to loan out the next book. So it can predict whatever is supposed to be next. Instead of you going to the shelf to say, I want to go and check what is on the shelf, whether that book has been borrowed, or you begin to check through your cards to know who has borrowed it. If somebody is to borrow a book, then it will tell you that, oh, no, somebody has borrowed, this is the last book remaining in the library. You will now make your decision to now say, okay, I will lend this out. So your behavior is now predicted by the RFID technology, telling you that we have just one book left in the library. Can you decide to loan it out? If you loan it out, you cannot prevent it. And if the setting is done that the last book cannot be loaned out, you can do the setting that no matter what you try to do, it will not release the book. Then it optimizes processes. That is, artificial intelligence can be used to optimize processes by analyzing RFID tag. And then this can be used for a variety of purposes, such as improving efficiency, reducing cost, and improving quality. That's what we call PDA, patron-driven acquisition. When you want to acquire books into the library, it can be projected that based on courses that are offered and suggestions that people have made, these are the resources to be acquired into the library. You don't just continue to point. So you use PDA model, patron-driven acquisition. Then, but at least you have given out several questionnaire out. People have projected, they have suggested what to be used. Then we input this into our system, and based on that, it can generate resources to be acquired into the library, not just acquiring anything. So you have limited acquisition and then specific acquisition, and then it can address direct needs of the users. So this is taking us beyond where we are or aspiring to be. We've identified the digitization of our collection. Many are doing it. Then online reference services, use of emails, use of our WhatsApp platform, use of Ask a Librarian, and all that. We have been using them. Several other ones that have been listed here, online cataloging and databases and all this. But way beyond this, to other uses. I was talking about RFID earlier on. Now, let's say somebody comes to the library. Look at the start. The student enters the library with book. That is, he wants to return the book. You don't need to have a librarian seated. I always tell people that a librarian does more than loaning of books. As a matter of fact, people working at the circulation desk are not librarians, library assistants and all that, except the reference librarian that is close to them. But for circulation, just expect somebody coming to the library, expecting to see someone. But what you see there is the RFID technology, that is the library management software that you have. Then all the student needs to do for the self-service is to input the book there. Then you show the RFID tag, point it at the technology, then it captures. When the data is captured, it automatically collects the book, and then there's a tray that takes the book in, and then you are discharged as a borrower. Then it credits the library that the book has been returned. Then when you place the book in the tray, it goes. Then it is received. Then it will display the message that definitely the book has been returned and it is not against you. Then it will update the database, and that is the end. Then librarians can also focus now on more of research work. The library assistants can help in the bindery section. They can help in several other aspects that we've not been able to use robots to do, especially in Africa. So we have a lot of benefits. People do say that with the use of technology, many people will lose their jobs. Sincerely, it will create more jobs, but it will require more learning. Learning is much more required now than ever before. We begin to learn and relearn and unlearn. So all these have to be put together for us. Then looking at some evolving landscape of library service. I may not mention all because of our time, but the very, very necessary aspects now, especially in medical sciences, in almost every aspect of study, is the virtual reality. People want to be involved. People want to see what is actually happening. They want to participate. And you can see that some libraries have adopted that. And that is what is showing in the picture above. A young lady in the library, another young lady up. I decided to put the black and white persons. I always like to have that balance. And so they are using it in the library. They want to see reality. One of the characteristics of the virtual reality is immersion. You are immersed in it. Presence, you feel as if you are in the place where the event is taking place. Then interaction. All these three keys are the characteristics. And when people see that they're going to have real life experience, as a matter of fact, libraries will begin to give people schedule of appointment to use the library. Unlike the present situation where some people, because not in all libraries, where some people complain of lack of patronage. When we introduce the use of virtual reality in our libraries, we're going to see what this can do for us. So we have a lot of services to offer, and we see that we are changing our roles as librarians. And could you believe that there are content creators among librarians now that are putting things into the library? And you won't believe it, people begin to come to the library and they have to schedule appointment for them. People in agriculture, they want to have reality of a farm application of fertilizer. They want to have harvesting of farm crops. So person that read agricultural science as science background, why can't you focus your research area in agriculture? Then the sustainable development goal that we are talking about, maybe food, no hunger, and that is 2, SDG 2. You can key into that and then build a research study in that area. And then you will see that we begin to collaborate with agriculturists all over the world. So the librarian is no longer in the library. Then robotic process automation, RPA. This is a very important aspect of artificial intelligence also. So for what I have here, some libraries are already employing robotic process automation, that is RPA, to perform routine administrative tasks like migration shelf management, forms processing, and email marketing, while a few others are experimenting with automated storage and retrieval systems, AS and RS, that use robots to retrieve from mass storage facilities. That is a lot of facilities. And the university librarian, Dr. Felicia Yusuf, showed me that library at the time. They use robots to actually take books from shelves and bring to the user. When you process, when you key in your request, it goes straight to the robot interprets the language and then goes straight to the shelf without wasting any time. Pick the book directly because there are tags already on the books that communicate with the robot. So you don't begin to search the shelf. It goes straight and picks. Then instantly, the user receives the book. Of recent, I was able to collaborate with the German embassy, the German Cultural Center rather, in Nigeria, and we're able to go to schools to introduce robots to students. And this robot actually spoke with students. They interacted together. They asked the robot a lot of questions. And, you know, learning was fun. We had very beautiful experience. And at the end, the principal of the school called again and said, can we have the librarian and also the robots in the school? Though we could not provide the robot again because it keeps moving around Africa. But the good thing was that students were able to interact with the robot and it actually made sense. What am I talking about? The librarian is needed more within and outside the library. The library is going out to meet the users, not the users coming to meet the library. And the beautiful thing is that the mobile librarian and the mobile library are needed more than ever before because the information we have on Google is not structured. And they need somebody to, we talk of specificity because there is I recall, but there's a need for specificity. When people have specific information, they're able to see. Sincerely, librarians have to up their games and begin to learn. If I have to begin to tell us about all the AI tools, we may not be able to leave this place, but this little we've been able to see, combination of RFID technology, expert system, and AI, we can make high impact in our environment. The aspect I'm going to tell us about also is the aspect of storytelling, because I try to meet academic library, public library, and also the school library, because I know that everybody came from different backgrounds. So I try to touch different aspects as I keep speaking. So let's look at storytelling. I just have a few software for us here that we can explore. They are free. Digital storytelling, which is accompanied by, is accomplished by the combining narration with digital content, such as animation, still, and audio. So we tell stories, and an aspect that is emerging now is digital storytelling. I don't know how I would do it, gathering children together now, especially with state of insecurity in Nigeria or some other parts of the world. You now see that people should travel from different parts of the country just to listen to me tell stories. That may not be ideal. But digital storytelling makes me to reach people at different parts of the world. And I can create my content by myself. We have Story Jumper. We have the Protagon story. You can see Little Birds, Tales, Platon Comic, Animaker, Elementary, Imagine Forest, Storybook, Storyboard that. So all these are free. You need to explore them and you'll be able to create story and then have digital storytelling. I have a friend that does digital storytelling and she posts that on Facebook. It is still limited because she tells a story by herself and then keeps sharing on Facebook, but there are platforms we can also use to make this story reach several people. And then you can now even make it in form of animations. Children love comic. So we can explore a lot of stuff. My friend, Dr. Alonge came the other time. We were looking for a software to do something on, to draw an individual. And sincerely, I just said, let's go online. We will see free stuff there. And before you know what is happening, we're able to transform the picture to image and to a drawing and cartoon. The person was so excited. So these are things that we need to do. People expect librarians to know everything. And we have stickers also. We usually say, ask a librarian. Several things we used to praise ourselves. The best and the most intelligent people are librarians. The smarter people on earth are librarians. But when they come to us and they don't see smartness, they begin to wonder whether we are telling lies or we are telling the truth. The truth is that when we depend on technology, we are smarter than others. And that is the essence of this discussion here today. Then to actually demonstrate how RFID technology and artificial intelligence also work, look at this. When we are using RFID technology, we tag our books and they communicate with the book, and it will be able to process centrally through the network. We have the RFID reader. When you come to the library, it can scan the reader. That is, you have a tag that you place on it, then it gives you access to what we have in the library. And it can give, as a matter of fact, from the entry, if we don't want you to enter, if you don't have the card to enter the library, you may not be able to enter the library, especially in postgraduate sections. Some people go there to just mess up the place, and other, especially in the library where you don't have a lot of discipline. So you can restrict movement. And then it is people that have pass, that is the tag that have the RFID that can actually enter into the library. Then you use that tag to penetrate. Likewise, our books, when they have the RFID tags, they can be scanned, and then we can copy information for the user. And then instead of writing, some people have, some libraries still use the note to write down the name of the borrower, and then the title of the book borrowed, the time it was borrowed, the time to be returned. You know, all these long traditional systems are still practiced in some libraries. But though it takes money, but as I said at the beginning, there are low-cost technologies that are coming up. The earlier we embrace them, the best. I'm not advertising for China. I'm not advertising for Asian countries, but of recent, they are imitating some materials from other parts of the world, and these are becoming cheaper for some parts of the world to use. In a situation your library does not have the financial capability, and you want to show what it is, sometimes it is necessary to patronize some of these products, and they are refining them also to be better. In my library, we are not using the China products, so I don't think I'm advertising China product to you or Asian products, but sincerely, we need to explore some things, at least for the experience, and you'll be able to teach your students or teach your library users this development. It's frustrating when people come to the library and they say, oh, you are still using this old system. You know, I don't know how you feel, but when they come, they have something to learn. And this is also an opportunity for me to let librarians know that we need some skills to actually have excellence in our library. Ability to collaborate with organizations. Of recent, we did something on social responsibility of companies. There are organizations that want to do social responsibility. We can meet with organizations, and then they can help us to deploy technologies in the name of such organizations. And it's also advert for some of those companies. So when we begin to relate with organizations, because the librarian should not just stay in the library thinking that it is what the university is presenting. But let's begin the aspect of collaboration. Of recent, about some universities in some parts of the world that are collaborating with organizations to provide technology for farmers. So farmers come to the public libraries and then they learn about this and they give them technology to manage their farms. You know, that is exciting. The time to apply water, the technology suggests to them, you know, all that, several things. And this is with some organizations. There are some organizations that are carrying out research on farmers. We can link them to our libraries, especially public libraries. We'll be able to reach out to many organizations. So on a lighter note, yesterday I generated some AI librarians. These are female librarians I generated using artificial intelligence. And I know that some of us also have attended a lot of classes on artificial intelligence, especially I want to credit some of our Nigerian youth that are librarians. They've been organizing several training on use of artificial intelligence to generate content to write for us and all that. It is very commendable. Then also, somebody was talking about ethical use of artificial intelligence. I think about 2 months ago, I made a presentation on that, on ethical use of artificial intelligence, especially for research in academic libraries. And also, we don't copy things word for word. And also, there are software also to detect plagiarism when you use artificial intelligence also to, like ChatGPT, to develop your content. So well, that is an aspect that other persons may be talking about, because I talked about that last time. Then not just male, female, I generated one for male also. I think this is beautiful. Then these guys are not looking so African. So I said I must get pure Africans. So I searched again, then I was able to get, this is what AI gave me, African librarians. So it's not just anybody, they are librarians, African librarians. So I generated that. I think the guy in red tie looks like me a little. It's just I don't use glasses. That was on a lighter note. Then let's look at this. This is the assignment I'm giving us as librarians. And I'll be concluding with that. That digital skills of interest should be learned. Why did I say digital skills of interest? This is the era of confusion as much as it is of enlightenment. Knowledge is growing. A lot of things are coming up. Data analytics is entering into library science. Content creation, animation, website design, several things are coming into librarianship. But what is your area of interest? You cannot cover everything. You're going to be frustrated. I've seen a lot of people doing different things. I decided to focus in my area of study. I do bibliotherapy and cinematography using artificial intelligence, using several content creation, image maker, Canva, several things. But whatever I do comes back to learning, telling stories, showing movies, but towards bibliotherapy and cinematography. So look at your area of interest. Do you want to begin to do data analysis? Then your digital skills should have focus, because several things will be coming up. As a matter of fact, this is the beginning of what artificial intelligence is doing for us. We are going to have a lot of things coming up. But as these things come up, they are to help you in your area of interest, and you begin to learn. Then there's a need for professional alliances for technology learning. This is a beautiful gathering, sincerely different persons from different parts of the world. I would suggest that we have a database of everyone's contact. the organizer of the program are already doing that. So the database of everyone, then from this crop of eggs, you can now begin to make collaborations. It's going to be a symbiotic relationship. That is, what I know, I teach you. What you know, you teach me. Then we'll be able to learn from one another. Then we need constant evaluation. If you look at my pictures above, that is the only thing that is not vacant. The first one, digital skill, is vacant, is your area of interest. The second one, professional alliances, is vacant. But evaluation, it is what is inevitable. All of us must constantly evaluate ourselves. Where am I? What am I doing? What am I running after? What do I plan to achieve? If you don't have this, if you don't know where you are lacking, as a matter of fact, you're going to lag behind. So when you lack, I say you lag. So if you don't lack, you don't lag. So we need to constantly work on our areas so that we don't lag behind. Then also international exposure. So people say, I don't have money to travel abroad. You don't need to travel. This is what we are doing now is international. It's a conference. We have several persons from all over. And then since we're going to have database, then you can begin to collaborate with others. And then if you have money, why not travel also to some other conferences to meet people and then do online study. That is international exposure. I'm not saying you look for money to travel out or you now bore your organization with sponsoring you to travel abroad and then you get dejected when you don't travel out of the country. No, but the most important thing is to have international alliances. On this note, I want to say thank you for your time because I promise not to waste our time at all. Thank you very much and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night. Whatever applies to you, good day. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much. We sincerely appreciate you for sharing your words of knowledge with us. Permit me to introduce Mrs. Musonda from Zambia. She's also a team member. She will be the one to anchor the question and answer session. I'm sure our participants have a lot of questions to answer. And from what we have seen in the chat session, there are several questions that have been asked. So she's currently collating the questions. So Mrs. Musonda, please, are you done with the collation?
Yes, I am. Good everyone.
Okay, good afternoon.
Thank you so much. We sincerely want to thank our speaker for that great speech and that session. So we have a number of questions that have been asked by our participants. First question I have, Ma, is coming from Oluso Bami. And I don't know if it's a she or he's trying to find out how can robots be used to enhance smart learning in library. And he's also trying to find out how has the integration of artificial intelligence impacted the traditional roles and functions of libraries and librarians. I don't know, Elijah, should I know the questions and allow speaker to answer once, or I ask person the other? Take be guided.
I think it may be necessary. Maybe you can write them. You can just continue to read them out. How many questions do we have altogether?
We have about 6 questions so far.
Okay, it may be necessary to just answer them one after the other. So I think I should answer that first. Yeah. So how can we use robots to impart learning in libraries. As a matter of fact, robots have languages or information that have already been packaged into them. And in libraries, like the one I said earlier on, knowledge is fluid, or it is it's enormous. But when you come to the library and you use robots, it has to do with specificity. When something is specific, it goes straight. Instead of the human knowledge that is trying to reason what you are asking, based on program languages, when you input question into robot, it gives you straight. What it does not have, it will tell you, I don't have. And for people that are in secondary schools, there are things that, like the school I attended, that I went to make presentation on use of robots for learning. We told them that robots can answer some questions for them. And then students were asking the robots things that have to do with them. There is one on menstruation for young ones. You know, these are things they cannot ask their fellow humans because they are shy or whatever. But because they know this is a robot, number one, it eliminates shyness, and then you can ask robot, this is what I want. If you see what your children are doing online also, you will know that they cannot do that before you. So the first thing is that robot cuts the human intervention or interaction. It reduces the human interference, rather. That is, you are afraid that maybe I will judge you based on what you have. Somebody wants to ask about contraceptive. They are not bold to ask you about that. So they are free to ask robot, and robot tells them without trying to repackage or reduce the level of information they're going to get. So the robot interacts with them, and the fact that they're not interacting with women helps them to be free and to speak. But one thing I must tell you about the limitation of robot is that it is whatever you put into robot that it says for now. And it cannot go out of, and then citing some examples also may not be possible if it is not already there. So that is the limitation. But with artificial intelligence also working more, it's continue updating itself. The more update it gets, the better information it's able to process out for the students to learn. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you, Mark. We hope has been answered. The next question is, what is the starting point for librarians to take advantage of the possibilities of AI? And can you explain the idea of recommender system using virtual chatbots?
Starting point for every librarian is learning. I always tell people learning is much more important than any other thing. You know, you don't just start without learning and also collaborating. So the starting point for every librarian is to start learning and then unlearning, because most times we think we know. And also to recognize that learning is not now, you see, with artificial intelligence, learning is not in the hand of the teachers alone. As a matter of fact, my son at home taught me some things over the weekends when I was sleeping, and then he took my picture, and then I saw the picture he sent to me. My head was scraped, no hair on my head any longer. And I said, what is this? Then he was laughing. Then he told me I went about it, removing my hair, putting another thing, you know, all those stuffs Then we laughed. It made me a lot of several pictures and all that. So I started learning from my child. We need to know that learning as the process. And you from me, I can learn from you. But the first thing is that you must start with learning. And then the second step is that don't be stereotyped in your learning. And before we know what is happening, everybody will begin to update. I talk about adoption and merger. All the generations have merged together. And the younger ones are adopting us into their tech community, while we are also giving them experience to manage their lives and to manage the technology they have. I coined a word called technomaturity. That is, technology and maturity must be merged together. If you don't have adequate maturity, you may not be able to also manage technology. There are disadvantages of technology, but that is why the old generations are merging together to be able to do this. So the first point of starting is the learning process. Then also the chat box has to do with, it can be used for several purposes. That is meeting the needs of users in the library. As people come to the library, they desire several resources, they desire several things they want to do in the library. So when you come, they make their request. The artificial intelligence gives them what they need. We use chatbots also for reference services. So as people come, the artificial intelligence gives them whatever they need. Then also the ChatGPT also has its own chat box, depending on what you are looking for. Also, describe what you need. When you send your information into it, it will give you. Of recent, I told you I designed all this stuff. The chat box that I use with ChatGPT, I sent information there. Then it designed what I wanted for me without me learning how to do it. Because somebody may want to clap for me that I generated this. No, I just gave information on what I needed. There was a time I wanted to start doing animation and all that. I saw a lot of programming languages I would have to learn and all that. I was bored. But with what we have now, you can send whatever you want into the chat box, and then it gives you whatever you want. So in library, or whether you are using ChatGPT or whatever, this is just a descriptive platform where you can describe whatever you want, and then you are given in the library. Thank you.
Our last two questions. How can artificial intelligence be at public libraries? And somebody has
please come again.
That artificial intelligence does. How can artificial intelligence varies? And artificial intelligence does references.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you clearly. Please come. Please start all over again, please. The voice is breaking here.
Hello, are you able to hear me, ma'am?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Our last two questions are: how can artificial intelligence be at the public libraries? Also, that artificial intelligence does not provide the sources of gathered. Those are our two questions.
If I can hear you clearly, it says, how can artificial intelligence be adopted in library? Is that?
In public libraries.
How can artificial intelligence be adopted in libraries?
In public libraries.
Okay, in public libraries. Thank you very much. The public library, depending on the country, is the school of the community. but the funding of each library depends on the robustness of the state. And most times I do tell librarians that we don't have to wait for funding to be able to meet the needs of the people. For example, now, people want to write letters. You need to know people that want to write employment letters, people that want to write proposals, people that want to do several things. You know that to offer to people. As a matter of fact, with AI, we do translation services also. There was a time my friend and I traveled to a French-speaking country. I speak a little of French, but there are some deep part of French, deep French I don't understand. We just need to use AI. Just go online and then look for anyone that is free that can help us, because I always look for free ones. Sometimes I subscribe, but not very much, because if I have free, why should I subscribe? So I subscribe to several. I go to several platforms to look for free, and the free ones, by the time you use 3 or 4 times, don't mind me, but I try to let you know that you don't need so much money to do this. So begin to let people know that letter writing services is done in library, proposal writing services is done in the library, data analytics is done in the library. There are software that can do data analysis for people. So you need to just learn a little more. So in public library, you open your library to several people, because they know that when they get to library, they find solution to their problem. So with AI, even you can train them on how to use some software that they just need to come to your library. And then when we have, what we complain about in Africa, light, what else, money and all this, we can break that barrier. People now use their phones. So when they come to public library, let them know that they can have access to every form of information. And with the BOD initiative, that is BYD initiative, bring your device. So you tell them to bring their device to the public library, and then put them through on the use of artificial intelligence. Then they can do this. I was telling us earlier on, it is not about ownership now, but access. So give them access. So we may not own all these artificial intelligence tools, but we have access to them. Let's give them access. That is the essence of the library. And when they want to make reference to where they learned, they will say that I learned from the library. Thank you very much. Then the second question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ma. Those were the questions for this session. I hand over to the chair.
I am not Ma.
Okay, thank you so much for this great explanation. I observed the presence of some library administrators. So I would like you to shed more light on this particular question. Strategy for adopting artificial intelligence in our libraries. And when we talk about staff training, do we need to employ more of programmers, or how do you go about it? What is the starting point? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Am I to respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are talking of process of adoption. You see, we start from, like you said earlier on, from training, but it is not just training. It is first, it's also training or orientation, because some don't see the need for this. Sometimes we think we are excited about artificial intelligence, we're excited about this, but even the management of your institution don't even have interest. So there is what we call buy-in. Buy-in. So you need to first initiate process of communication. Buy-in must take place when they give into your vision, they understand what you have, what you want to present to the university. Then they can say that. There was a young man that made a presentation, And this is also so disheartening. It was among librarians that he made that presentation. But it can also be forgiven because it was a baby boomer generation that asked that question or that got angry. You know, the guy made presentation on use of RFID technology and all that. He said everything. And the man said, you are the people spoiling, destroying librarianship profession. What, you want to abandon our cards? That is the 3x7 card. You know, you want to abandon that? No, this is bad. You know, the man started shouting on the young man. Then I shook my head. I said, this person, if you are the aim of affairs, you will not see the need for you to use any artificial intelligence or RFID technology or expert system technology. So, sincerely, the first thing is to first achieve the buy-in, that is making them to understand why we need it. Then after that has been done, then they should look at their budget. Yes, money may not be too necessary, but also we will need some art and software to use in the library. Like if we want to use even the common library management software, we need computers, we need the software, we need several things to put together. In some places where you need security, we need CCTV and all that. So first let them know what the budget implication is. And then it is not a quick adoption, because when they see that you are in a hurry, especially where some people think you are the nation is corrupt or somebody is corrupt, they may think you want to quickly make some money. Let them know, let's have face-by-face adoption. You may not adopt everything together. So you can have, is it segmented adoption? So if you may take some now, and then maybe in the space of 2-3 years, you've got what you need in your library. Because what frustrates management is when people rush and then you're on the neck of management and they see that the income cannot cater for this. Then introduce to them face-by-face implementation of technology. When we do that, it is going to be welcomed by everybody. Then you must know the vendors that are coming to give you your resources in the library. You must be able to negotiate with right vendors. There are vendors that are hand-to-hand vendors. They make your resources too expensive for anyone to want to purchase. So you need to liaise with other functional libraries that have adopted certain technology, especially if you want to be using artificial intelligence. They can tell you those you can subscribe to that are not too expensive in your library. So when you see that, you'll be able to know, okay, look at the use of Turnitin software. Some people have paid to people they should not pay to, and they have lost. And people don't have confidence in that head of library any longer. And are there other ones that are very safe and even use free online? Do you know there are some free software that can also do the work of Turnitin? That is, they are just plagiarism check. Don't let me use the word Turnitin because the name of a company is the name of the software. But there are other software that are not Turnitin. You understand, that can do plagiarism check. You can put that in your library for a start. So it's not that you must just go ahead and do something that is too bogus. Then after you have done vendor analysis and you have done budgetary analysis, you have achieved buy-in, then there's a need now for training. First of the managers, that is the librarians that will be using this technology. We train them. We can have somewhere, maybe an organization that is going to give to you the first coming to do training for people, and also for the users, the other users too, which are your patrons. In my university, from time to time, we train students, we train lecturers, we train staff to constantly use. We have institutional repository and several things that we train people on from time to time. So that is very, very necessary. Then the actual adoption now has to do with other resources that will be alongside. Do you have stable electricity? Some people adopt things without other things that you could use with them. There was a university that invited me to come and work for them, and they said that they have light just 2 hours in a day. With my level of technology and all that, I said I may not be able to come, because from morning till night, look at what we are doing now is electricity. So do you have stable electricity, or do you have alternative sources of electricity? Like, what do you call it? That we use solar power or use of batteries and some other things. So we must have stable electricity supply and all that. So all those things together, we need them for adoption. I think I cannot exhaust them. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks. We appreciate you, sir. I'm also looking at one question now. It says, you mentioned that there are tools produced by China and we can adopt it to keep record of borrowers in the library. Can you please share this manufacturer catalog with us?
I don't want to do that. You can go online, because I said our library does not even use them. But I've seen a lot of people that have come to market to me that they said, but I don't want to advertise for any company. But when you go online, you will see several of them that they want to sell technology, and you have to now, the librarian does not make decisions solely. You have systems librarian, or you have people in your ICT department that can also give you advice, because it is necessary a librarian collaborates. If your feed is not ICT, and then you just buy technology, because several persons have bought a lot of stuffs that are not encouraging, and people begin to question your capability. So it is necessary to relate with persons in ICT department, and also if you have a systems librarian that is actually a system librarian, because some people bear the title systems librarian, but they don't have technology experience. You know, political will of the management may take them there, because I must be practical in our discussion. So if somebody is a real system librarian, we'll be able to give you advice as the head of the library. Thank you very much. Are we okay?
You're muted.
Thank you very much.
You're muted.
Oh, Mr. Tanzi, please, kindly confirm your presence.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
Not a problem. Are you ready for me to screen share? You just let me know when you're ready for me to screen share, and I'll go right ahead.
Okay, okay. So I'll be introducing Mr. Tanzi. Trying to share the screen for us to see properly. Can we see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having to challenge. Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. So you're welcome on board, sir. So Nick Tanzi is the Assistant Director of the South Huntington Public Library in Suffolk County, New York, United States of America. He is a nationally recognized library technology consultant and the author of the books Making the Most of Digital Collections Through Training and Outreach and Best Technologies for Public Libraries, Policies, Programs, and Services. Nick is a past column editor for public library magazines, The Wired Library, and his work on intersection of libraries and technology has been featured in publications, including Computers in Libraries, Library Journal, and Marketing Library Services. You can also learn more about Tanzi. He has done lots of works on artificial intelligence. So I would advise you visit this link, thedigitallibrarian.com, to access most of his work. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Nazi. You are welcome on board.
Okay, well, thank you for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen now. All right, you can confirm you can see it?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Great. Okay,
Yes,
so today I'm going to be talking in future. Now, artificial intelligence in libraries, as you imagine, is some controversy. It's also a time where I feel like it's something we didn't talk very much about just a few short years ago. And now for some of us in the library profession, it feels like the only thing we're talking about, right? There's a certain amount of hype surrounding the technology. Now, what I'm going to talk about today, talk about how AI is impacting our libraries, some of the common terminology we talk about with artificial intelligence happening right now, what comes next, and then have questions, feel free to enter them into the presentation. Get those up too, and if they get answered along the way, that's great. If those questions are still outstanding, at least you're not in a hurry to try to get them, into the chat. And being able to put them when they're still fresh in your mind can be helpful. Now, whenever I talk about artificial intelligence in libraries, I always have a few disclaimers. One of which is things are moving very fast. I'm sure you noticed that the landscape is changing all the time. The rules governing AI, such as they are changing all the time. New tools are popping up, new use cases. And so we need to kind of approach this with a bit of humility, knowing that things change. So while I'll talk about what is right now, recognize that a day later, things may be a little bit different. The other disclaimer is that we have many unanswered questions. There's plenty of good questions you may have about the nature of copyright and artificially, AI-generated content, of some of the legality of some of the stuff, questions of ethics. And while they're excellent questions, there's so little legislation currently governing AI that there's not always a lot of answers. And I understand that can be a source of frustration that can produce a lot of anxiety for many of us. The landscape is going to settle over time, and we do need to acknowledge that. But right now, there are a lot of questions that are unanswered. I think it's helpful to kind of know where your speaker's coming from. What is their opinion on things, especially something as contentious as artificial intelligence? And in truth, I'm kind of in that middle. I'm persuadable about AI. I can see much of its utility. I think it is a technology that is going to revolutionize how we interact with information. It's here to stay. It's not a flash in the pan. But we also need to recognize that there are serious ethical issues, that there are problems with the technology. We don't go into this blind. We don't ignore those things. And so any one of us, I think, can go and make a very persuasive case of why AI is a great thing. And any one of us can make a very persuasive case about why AI is terrible. And with most things, it's some combination of the two, right? And then finally, what I'll say is going into this, it's okay to feel bewildered. So many of us are not sure how this all works, what's coming, what's happening. That's the nature of change. Everything is hard and unfamiliar until it becomes the familiar, until it becomes easy. And so that's kind of what I want to impress on you is confusion is actually just to give you a sense of. Now, I consider myself 24 period of Twitter, or X as it's calling itself now. And you can see how this can produce a lot of anxiety. I have all these tweets about folks saying how, like, Excel is dead and how, PowerPoint is over because of AI and ChatGPT is a money-making machine. There's 120 tools you don't even know about. And when you see that type of hype, you can feel like you're missing out, or you're failing at your job, or somehow you're falling behind. And there's a lot of one-upsmanship with this technology. Again, I just want to settle us all. Our understanding of this technology will grow. It will become the familiar over time. And with that in mind, I'm going to show you a clip. This is from 1994. This is the Today Show. It's a morning talk show in America. Very popular show. So understand that this is 1994, this clip, and that the World Wide Web, the publicly available internet, basically came into the mainstream in 1993. So this is 1 year following kind of the advent of the internet.
Back now at 56 past, I wasn't prepared to translate that as I was doing. And around it? At? See, that's what I said. Mm-hmm. Katie said she thought it was about.
Yeah. Oh.
But I'd never heard it. I'd never heard it said. I'd always seen the mark, but never heard it said. And then it sounded stupid when I said it. Violence at NBC.
I heard around big fight up in the lunchroom the other week.
There it is. Violence at NBC. GE.com. I mean,
what Allison should know.
What is internet anyway?
Internet is that massive computer network, the one that's becoming really big now.
What do you mean? That's big. How does one? What do you write to it like mail?
No, a lot of people use it and communicate. I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison.
So I'm going to stop that clip right there. But again, I think this is how AI works, right? So if this is the internet, which we know revolutionized information, we know how important it was. In 1994. A group of reasonably intelligent people were super confused by this technology. They didn't know how to talk about it. In hindsight, some of the things they said were true or false. And early on, it was super nerd stuff, right? You had to be a really big tech to use these. Email was considered very ahead of the time. Now, yes, do we all use the internet? Yes, and in different ways than we used it back then. And we don't think about that underlying technology so much, right? It just kind of is. It just runs in the background, and it's very accessible for all of us. So that's the journey I think AI is on, is it's one where there's a lot of confusion, where yes, it has tremendous potential. And in the same way that the internet can be used for great good or great bad, we're going to see a similar path as it pertains to AI. Now, what I want to impress on everyone is that AI, while we think of it as something that's coming, it's already here in our libraries. Artificial intelligence is a very subtle technology, and it insinuates its way into things that we do in ways that maybe aren't always explicit. One of the early ways we're seeing artificial intelligence kind of find its way into our library is through library collections, in particular, your digital collections, things like ebooks and digital audiobooks, databases, and the like. And when you think about your library and you think about your library's digital presence, things like its website, while we tend to think of these things as one consistent library experience, and that's what we hope for, the truth is most of these things are an amalgam of services. There are many different things that we all pull together to make one library website. So for example, I use my library. I'm a public library, the South Huntington Public Library, and we use things like Overdrive. That's an ebook vendor. And that's part of the library experience, but it's a distinct service, right? And they have their own website. And we have our databases, things like EBSCO, and we pull those things in. We have learning services like LinkedIn Learning, and we pull all of these disparate services together and present it as one library experience. But in truth, there are multiple things. There are multiple vendors. There are multiple points of service. And those things have been adopting artificial intelligence before the library proper. So again, I mentioned that Overdrive is where we get most of our ebooks. And that's true in the United States in particular. Better part of 90% of libraries use Overdrive to provide ebooks for our community. Well, Overdrive as a vendor has been using AI chatbots for quite some time. And in fact, about 1 in 3 of their user help requests were actually serviced using artificial intelligence. And that was back in 2019. Library users, even indirectly, have been being served as part of their library experience by artificial intelligence bots. And I'm going to show you an example of this. The other thing is, so many of our devices now are smart devices, smartphones that have, virtual assistants, things like Siri, your home speakers, things like Alexa, all these Amazon and Google, these different ecosystems. And those smart speakers, that voice-activated search is a brand of machine learning, of artificial intelligence. And those things now can interface with our library, and particularly our digital library, so that I can use voice assistants to get library materials. Hoopla is a service we use in North America that, for example, has audiobooks. And I can speak to my smart speaker and have it fetch that content and play that. It is already touching libraries in many ways. The other thing that's happening is AI-powered collection development tools now. Instead of just using things like the subject heading of a book, AI has the ability of natural language processing, reading those materials like a person would read and understanding it like a person would, and having a deeper understanding of context and emotion and tone of a book. So I can use AI to look at my collection and see where it's deficient and add new voices and new perspectives. But we have to acknowledge that AI is a double-edged sword. And that same technology now can be used, we're seeing, for book banning purposes. There are some school libraries now that are using AI to try to seek out objectionable content because it can functionally read the entirety of the collection and remove things it finds objectionable. And, we have different ideas of what objectionable may be. Oftentimes it's silencing voices. We're taking away perspectives that some people find frightening or they disagree with. So that's a concern as well. Finally, when we look at collections, AI narration is a big thing right now. So AI can produce a voice that sounds very much like a person, and it can narrate audiobooks. Now, that's very frightening if I'm a narrator, right? I can lose my livelihood. It's also a very good thing, though, when it comes to access. Audiobooks are a very accessible option for many people. If you have difficulty with vision, for example, audiobooks are a great option. They're expensive to produce, and so libraries typically don't have as much as they want. Aside from the cost of producing a book, most books don't ever expensively can mean there's a lot of content out there for libraries happening. Again, that is a benefit to access. So earlier I referenced AI-powered customer support. Think of like Overdrive. So I'm going to give you an example of an ebook vendor, Overdrive, that is using AI in a customer support situation, in this case for accessing the collection itself. AI also uses technology to troubleshoot. So what you're going to see now is a smartphone screen.
Hey Google, talk to Libby.
Hi there, you can get a book recommendation or look for a book. What'll it be today?
Look for a book.
What book would you like to find?
Sophia of Silicon Valley.
Let's take a look. Do you mean Sophia of Silicon Valley by Anna Yen?
Yep.
You can borrow the ebook or audiobook or read its description. What would you like to do?
Borrow it, please.
The ebook and audiobook are both available to borrow. Which one would you like?
The ebook.
Done. The ebook, Sophia of Silicon Valley.
So you can see how that works. And I believe Dr. Solar earlier referenced to how, in terms of access, a lot more people are going to likely have a smartphone than maybe a home computer, for example. And so that is one of those early ways to interact with these technologies is via the smartphone. And we're going to see that increasingly, services like ChatGPT now that are now coming out with Android and iPhone apps. The other thing that's happening, though, and why are we talking so much about AI now in 2023? Well, it's that libraries and our users now have access to so many AI tools. And they've become more commonplace. They become more accessible by the general user. Remember, just like the internet back in 1994 was nerd stuff. Well, at a certain point, this stuff becomes widely available. There's a certain democratization of these tools. Any discussion inevitably is going to include something like ChatGPT, right? Now, why do we talk about ChatGPT? Well, it's the most well-known and widely used LLM, and that's large language model. This is something that processes language like you or I would. So you type in your commands to it like you would speak to somebody, and its output is, again, like a person would talk to you. It's conversational in nature. ChatGPT actually was one of the fastest growing platforms we have ever seen. It grew to 100 million users in about 2 months. And that was before it came up with smartphone apps. So you can imagine the amount of people that are seeing this technology. And that's why we talk about it so much. But we have to acknowledge that, especially early on, there's a certain, almost like an arms race with AI technology, right? Everybody's trying to make money. Everybody's trying to grow and get access to this stuff. And because of that, and because of this very little regulation, many of these services take a lot of... GPT has some pretty dubious origins. Best we can say, they took a tremendous amount of the publicly available internet, kind of just scooped it up, right? Like, if I go to the buffet and I want all the cupcakes, they wrapped their arms around as much as they could carry, dragged it away into their learning model. And then, so it's basically a snapshot of the 2021 internet. Okay, mostly September 2021 is where that information is dated. So it's not live internet. It's a snapshot of the internet. They then used a lot of folks to try to clean up the data, take away things like hate speech, anything that was potentially illegal, and exclude that from the training model. A lot of that work was actually done by engineers in Kenya that went through that data and cleaned it up. This technology, it has a memory of about 8,000 words. You can give it different prompts, you can talk to it, you can do follow-up, but after about 8,000 words, it begins to forget things. What I always need to tell folks is, though, it's a tool, it's not a source. It doesn't cite anything. You don't know what's in that black box. When you query that database, you don't know what's inside of it. So that lack of knowing what's in it, that lack of citation, does not make it a source. It's a way to interact with information. It's a tool, and in particular, data. data and your input. It does that very well. And this technology can understand roles. You can assign it different roles.
I'm attending some Zoom.
So, for example,
artificial intelligence. Yeah.
I can give it instructions. I can put it in if you're an academic librarian trying to do this, or you're a literacy instructor, your audience, children with a 5th grade reading level, it'll do all those things. Yep, and just really quick, I think we have to be a little careful. I think maybe we have some drawing tools that are going on. So if we can possibly remove some of those annotations, if that's what it is, but I'm going to continue. So I'm going to give you an example of a ChatGPT brainstorming session. This is me using ChatGPT on a desktop computer. And I'm going to use it as maybe a youth services librarian would use the service. So you'll see I'm typing a little bit slow, but I am asking ChatGPT to give me 10 titles for a library program about dinosaurs, right? So I've given it a little bit of info. I'm going to give it a little bit more. I'm going to explain that my audience is school-age children. So I'm using this as a brainstorming tool. And now it's listing a series of programs like Dino Discovery, Unveiling the World of Dinosaurs, all different ideas. And so this would be a way that a children's librarian might use this service. But remember, you're able to continue to refine your search. It has a limited memory. So I'm telling it to make the titles use alliteration. Children's librarians, they love rhyme, they love alliteration. They like when words start with the same letter, sound similar. So now it's Dazzling Dino Discovery, delving into the world of dinosaurs. So it's taking that follow-up instruction and it's applying it to what I already gave it. If you notice, if I'm a youth services librarian, I'm asking it questions that are within my area of expertise, which I'll talk about a little bit more. So I'll fast forward a little bit as it gives me these 10 options here. So my final follow-up here is I'm asking it to give me 5 more that are literacy-based. So I've given it follow-up information. And now, because they're literacy-based programs, it says things like Dino Book Bonanza, Adventures in Literacy with Dinosaurs. So not a highly technical search here per se, but as a brainstorming tool, it's worked very well. And it's really something that as a productivity tool helps quite a bit. Again, our instinct is to ask ChatGPT questions that, we tend to ask questions about stuff we don't know about, right? That's natural human curiosity. But when we ask AI questions that we don't know the answer to, we're not in a position to critique the quality of information it gives back. That places us at a disadvantage. And AI has a tendency to make stuff up, to hallucinate. So that's one of my suggestions is when you use AI, use it as an enhancement, use it as a tool, not as a source. Think of the process as one that's collaborative. Now, part of being an information professional, of working in libraries, is we perform a lot of searches for information, right? And there is what's called AI-powered search now. In the same way you would use a search engine, things like Bing are now powered by AI. Bing is powered by OpenAI. That is the same service that has created ChatGPT, so it has very similar functionality. Think of something like this as conversational search. The difference being it's connected to the live internet and it provides citations, but just like AI can hallucinate and make stuff up, it can make citations up as well. Almost think of it like a fancier version of Wikipedia. Wikipedia, the quality of information varies. It's a good starting point. It's a good place to begin pre-research to come up with sources. And you have to follow the citations and see if they're quality citations. I tend to use this service as pre-research. I take advantage of the limited memory because I can do those follow-ups, because I can save things. It's a nice starting point. The fact that it's connected to the live internet is helpful. The information is current. Many of these AI tools have multiple purposes, multiple things they can do. And something like Bing now, the new Bing, that's AI powered, can also function as an image generator. You can ask for it to create you images, and it will do that using a third-party service called DALL-E 2, and it's free. So we're going to look at Bing and the live internet. I'm going to perform a search on Bing. Now, when you look at the interface, you'll see it has three different modes. It has a creative mode, it has a balanced mode, and it has a more precise mode. And that's here in the center here. And again, I'll ask if anybody knows who was doing the, there's no guilty party here, but if somebody maybe accidentally drew on the screen, if they can undo their annotations, would be helpful. So I'm going to show you a search on the new AI-powered Bing. I'm asking it to find me 5 recent articles on augmented reality in education. It's going to give me a few articles here. You'll see I'm checking one out now. And this is one on use cases and benefits, key concepts. Giving it a little look. And what I can actually do is, because it's connected to the live internet, I can use the AI-powered Bing to actually summarize the content for me. What's nice about this is I already know the source now. I've looked at the source. I know where the information's coming from. I'm using the AI to parse that information, to summarize it. So as a way to quickly collect a lot of information, you'll see it's giving me a nice maybe 150-word summary. As a pre-research tool, that's great. I can very quickly look and find things and collect it and save it and then do further research. Again, I'm asking it about stuff I already know, but even if you're, maybe you're not familiar with augmented reality, as information professionals, you're still in a position to follow up on the sources, make sure that they're credible, and go from there. So it still puts you in the driver's seat. It still puts you in a position of authority when you use a service in this way. Now, again, I want to show you how this stuff, you cannot rely on it fully. You have to look at it critically. My suggestion is always to, when you are first interacting with an AI, is to ask it stuff that you're very familiar with. See how well it does. So like an egomaniac, I asked it about me, right? So I asked Bing's AI questions about who is Nick Tansey. And the quality of information was varied. There is more than one Nick Tansey, and it actually made an amalgam of 2 different ones, one who's the CEO of a company and one who's me, a library professional, and it combined us. Now, the resume is impressive when you combine 2 people in this way, but it's inaccurate. And if you didn't know me, you could look at that information and say, okay, that's good. But me, hopefully knowing me, knows that it's inaccurate. On top of even some of the information provided that was correct, that I have 20 years of experience in library technology, great. But the citation it generated didn't actually say that. It was just, it didn't really go to anything of note. So it had correct information, but then generated a false citation. So you have to go into this with a level of caution, with a level of critical thinking. Google Workspace actually has a ton of nice AI tools. And what I like about this is, we often talk about the cost of these things. Well, for an individual user, any of us can sign up for a Gmail account for free. And with that, if you turn on Google Labs, which is a feature, you can play with a lot of experimental AI tools as part of a online office, kind of software solution, right? If any of you have used things like Google Docs, certainly Gmail, Slides, which is like a PowerPoint equivalent, they now have AI that can perform things like on-site help. You can have a writing assistant helping you when you're typing in Google Docs. You can generate images when you're working in Slides. What I find useful are things like revising the tone of emails. Oftentimes when we're writing, you want to make sure you're striking the right note, depending on who you're talking to. Perhaps you want your email to be more formal. Perhaps you want it to tone is friendlier. You can use Google AI within Gmail when you turn on these experimental features to revise the tone. And some of these are rolled out over time, so we don't all have access to them, but pretty soon we all will. And in a Google Workspace environment, again, these you can use that in tandem with it. So for example, I can be using Google Bard, which is their AI-powered search engine, and it can give me information that perhaps is in a chart, and I can export that chart to Google Sheets, their Excel equivalent. I can save a chat session into Google Docs. And this is especially helpful because later on, we'll look at how AI and generative AI and its natural language processing is being used in Office software, in operating systems like the Windows 11 operating system. It's being built into it. And Google will allow you to play with that same functionality freely and get a head start on that type of technology. So it's a good prep for the changes that are coming to Windows, to Microsoft Office. Going to give you an example of this is me in Google Docs, and I'm going to be typing. So this is some text I've already written, and this is probably bad practice for me because I've already as part of an article that I already published, and now I'm doing some editing, so shame on me there. But you'll see I'm going to highlight that first sentence because I often struggle with a good tie-in to an article. And I am using Google's AI. You'll see I have some options here. I can rephrase, I can give custom instructions. Right now I'm just asking it to rephrase. I'm hoping for something that's a little more clear as an intro sentence. And it gives me a suggestion. Public libraries and public health have a long history of working together. I like how that is phrased. So I replaced my initial sentence with the AI, say generated one. But you understand that what I've done here is I didn't just type into Google and say, hey, write me a term paper on a topic, right? I've done research, I've written an article, and then on a collaborative basis, I'm using AI to refine what I've already written. So I'm in a position, again, to judge the quality of the work. I have that authority that I know what I'm talking about here because I've done the research, and I'm performing the quality control. I'm looking at its suggestions and saying, yes, that works, or no, that doesn't. So again, that's, I think, a good use case for how this stuff can be used as a productivity tool. See the difference between like assisted driving and like, autopilot. Then one of the AI technologies that's getting quite a bit of attention is text-to-image generators. Text-to-image generators, that's a form of generative AI. You put in a text command called a prompt, and the output isn't text, it's an image that tries to match what you're looking for. And typically you're presented with several images. You choose the one that's the closest match and go from there. Now, there are free and paid options. I'm always not sure about availability of software. States can be very popular free software that we use. that now has a text-to-image tool. So that's a good way to get some early AI generation, text-to-image generators. Bing, as I mentioned, is another good one. Stable diffusion can often be done for free. Now, earlier I had referenced that we have lots of unanswered questions when it comes to this technology, right? Like, what does copyright mean? Well, I can tell you a little bit of where it seems to be headed. Now, they had written the text, but they generated the images. I believe Midjourney for this. And they submitted their graphic novel to the United States Copyright Office for copyright protection. And of the Dawn is the name of the graphic novel. But once the Copyright Office understood that it was AI generated, they revoked copyright protection. And they said that they can only grant copyright protection to items that are of human authorship. So they said that they could copyright the words that a person wrote, but not the images that were AI generated. Now, will that stand up? I don't know, but that's some of the early decisions that we're seeing with that. Now, that tells us a little bit. It tells us that, at least as it stands right now in the US, an image can't be copyrighted. Okay. The stickier question right now is the training model data itself. These generative AI tools that make images, well, the training model was by scraping the internet and looking at all different images and then training the model on those images. Many of those images, works of art, photographs, those were copyrighted materials. And it's a kind of a gray area in the copyright law. So they're not reproducing the exact image, but they're derivatives of copyrighted material. And that's an open question and one that still has to be kind of figured out. And you may see differences of opinion, in the US, in the European Union, seem to be a little bit of separation on our opinions there. Now, how might you use this technology in a library setting? Well, I mean, it can be helpful in a marketing campaign to be able to generate particularly niche graphic, a very library-specific type of graphic that isn't available on some of the copyright-free, stock photo services. So it has the ability where you can kind of code what you want. You type the thing you want to see, and it makes it. It can also be a brainstorming tool. You might not final finished product, but you can spit out different ideas. You can type in different ideas of what you might see, and then it gives you a visualization of what you're hoping for. And that's a good starting point. You can combine technologies, and you can work with ChatGPT, for example, if you're a marketer, and use it as a brainstorming session to come up with a marketing campaign on something like Instagram. And then you can use a service like Midjourney or another tool and generate specific images based on the sizing preferences for these, or sizing specifications for different social media platforms, for example. So there's that as well. I'm going to show you, this is a captured video I did of, this is a service in Midjourney. This is a paid service, but it is one of the most powerful AI image generators that's out there. So I am typing a prompt in, and this is called an Imagine prompt. And I'm asking the AI to generate a portrait of a librarian cat. Cats are very popular in the libraries, I found. But in this case, this is a librarian cat. They are seated within the library, and I'm saying that they're wearing a cardigan. So I just want to show you how specific you can be. I could tell it watercolor. I can give it a specific size. I can do all of those things. But right now, the prompt is a portrait of a librarian cat. They're seated within a library, and they're wearing a cardigan. Very oddly specific image. This is real time. You'll see that the AI tool will process the image in about 60 to 90 seconds. It's going to give me 4 options, and any one of those options or all of them, I can ask it to do new versions of each individual one. So I can ask for 4 more options of any of those 4 images, or I can choose one or more and ask the AI to upscale the image to make it larger, higher pixel count, which typically when you find an image you want, then you upscale the image for use. You'll see I've generated some images here. Going to upscale just a little bit. This isn't the real upscale. This is just me looking at a close-in. And you can see the quality of the image. Now, again, you can tell it Renaissance style. You can say photograph. You can even give a specific camera with a specific shutter speed, with natural light or whatever you want. You can put in incredible prompts. But we need to understand that backing this was, again, that scraping of data for the training model. And that can be uncomfortable. I can name a specific artist and ask for an image in that artist's style, and it will do that. And it can only do that because it trained on that artist's work. That's something I avoid. It's not that the law governs it, but my own personal ethics make me uncomfortable, kind of copying a specific artist's style. So my prompts are always more general. Watercolor, I don't think anybody owns watercolor. Now, what does that take us to, though? Well, I think we need to have a plan for AI, right? And pretty fast, the stuff is here. We acknowledge that it's here in our libraries. Our patrons, our users, our own staff have access to these tools, and maybe not a lot of rules governing their use. When I think about the timeline governing this stuff, I think that there's got to be policy and procedure in place. We have to develop that first, make those guardrails. We need to experiment and experiment safely. That's the best way to learn, is to get hands-on with this. So once you have the tools in place and understand what the use cases might be, you can experiment. You can see and get a clearer idea of how you personally can use this stuff in your work, and how you might use it organizationally within the library, and how your users might use it. And then we move on to adoption, right? But we got to figure out what we can and can't and shouldn't do through experimentation, through rule building, and then we can adopt technologies, because then we have to make investments, right? We have to make investments in staff. We have to train people. We have to potentially make financial investments. Not all of these tools are free. Now, when I think about policy development, the question I always ask myself is, do I need a new policy? As a library administrator, I write a lot of policy. I will tell you, it's not the most aspect of my job. There's some people that maybe like writing rules. I don't. So because of that, I always say, do I really need a new rule? Do I need a new policy? Or can I explore, can I see a technology like artificial intelligence through the lens of existing policy? I typically look at the law first, and I say, okay, what does the law say, right? We don't break the law in libraries. Now, in the field of artificial intelligence, we know that there's not a lot of law, right? There's not a lot of rules. There's not much to go on. But when we think about libraries, there may be. And again, I'll give you my US perspective. Many of our states have laws that govern the confidentiality of library records. We basically say in New York that I can't disclose a patron's record, the things they've searched for, what they've checked out, the nature of their visits, unless I have a court order, a subpoena. Okay, so we hold it to a high standard. So that being the case, I have to be careful how I use an AI, right? And how, if I provide access to an AI that potentially collects that information and shares it with third parties, or adds it to a training model in a way that's personally identifiable, that would be a problem. So that gives me some guardrails, that gives me some idea of how I can and can't use that technology. The trickier piece, of course, is that what is legal and what is ethical are two different things. As it stands right now with an image generator, it's perfectly legal for me to say, I want a picture that looks exactly like this in this artist style, that for anybody looking at it might think I just made, the next Mona Lisa. But, and in particular, let me point out that I can generate an image that looks like the work of a living artist right now. That might be legal. I don't know that that's ethical. In fact, I know it's not ethical. The other thing that will aid us in policy development, though, in the here and now, is the terms of service. Typically, when you buy hardware or software, there's manufacturer's guidelines. There's terms of service with software. And you should be looking at that and saying, okay, if it says it's collecting a certain type of data or doing something with data that may or may not comport, that may or may not follow your library guidelines, who it's sharing that information with. Also, as you provide access to your community for different AI tools, something like ChatGPT says, hey, it's for 18 and up or 13 and up with parental consent. So you need to follow those guidelines, right? So even in the absence of any rules, there are some things we can point to early on as we do policy development. So there's policy and then there's procedure. Procedure being like, how do you actually follow your policy, right? In that case, I look at procedure as protecting patron and staff privacy. So that means that I don't use these tools in a way that gives the AI access to personally identifiable information. I look at how the AI operates to make sure that it's not harvesting that info without consent. So there's kind of two ways I can go wrong here, right? I might be having one of these conversations with an AI and I'm doing a reference interaction and I'm putting patron identifiable information, names, address, barcode, those things into my query. That would be a problem. The other problem would be, and that would be me, I did that, right? The other problem would be if the AI itself starts harvesting data without me even knowing. It's collecting email addresses, it's tying users to specific individuals. Those are things I have to look out for. As we navigate copyright, my suggestion as part of procedure is that we avoid problematic prompts. When we looked at the ethical stuff, I would avoid trying to basically steal an artist's work or their style. I would use it more generically. I wouldn't try to sell AI art as art. And I would assume that, being that the US Copyright Office, for example, said you can't copyright the stuff anyways, I wouldn't be making library stuff that I wouldn't want everybody else to have access to. I wouldn't go and make a logo that I can't copyright protect, right? I can't manage my brand at that point. So I would avoid that type of thing. And the other piece of procedure I think that's important is early on, I think we owe it to our users, to our community, to be transparent about our use of artificial intelligence. You'll see at the end of my slides, I've actually provided all of the prompts that I use to generate different AI images for this presentation. That's the transparency I can give you. Is I used Midjourney for slides 7 and 23, and I'm making up numbers here, but you can see where I used it and the prompts I used to generate the images. So that's the transparency I'm able to give on my use of AI. For you, what might that mean? If you're generating AI images, you should probably let people know. If your articles are, in your newsletter AI generated, you should probably provide that transparency in some fashion. Over time, that disclosure, I think, will become less important because it'll become almost like a pointless distinction. I think our use of AI may be so collaborative, it's just writing. In the same way that I wouldn't tell you I wrote an email on a computer, I may not tell you that it was a collaborative effort with a Google AI. But early on, when there's all this confusion, transparency is one of the things you can provide to your users. This is my AI don't list, right? There's lots of things you can do with AI. My suggestion in the library setting is don't do these things. Don't post patron info. Don't post confidential info. Don't turn off your critical thinking. Again, one of the problems with AI is that when it's wrong, it's confidently wrong. I'm sure all of you maybe have worked with somebody in your life that they might be wrong, but they're so confident about themselves and what they do. Very confident wrongness is dangerous. AI never says, I'm not sure, or maybe. It presents information definitively, and sometimes that information is wildly inaccurate. So you need to be a critical thinker. You need to follow up. You need to look at sources and don't make assumptions that answers or citations or the generations are correct. You know, these image generations, text generations. Now, part of our path onto implementation is for your AI before you implement it in your libraries. So I like to think of a good approach for something like this is to have an AI user group, to have a group of people that broadly represent the library, your organization, safely experimenting with AI. So set a couple of things here. You should have goals, right? What are you trying to achieve? I'm assuming it's to evaluate different tools to see where it can work within your policy. Then you have the composition of your group, who makes it up. It shouldn't just be techies. This is a technology that all of us will be using. So yes, you should have your IT staff, and they may need to be a part of this conversation anyways, because they may administer the computers or what you have access to. But earlier, I showed you me using AI, right, from the perspective of a youth services librarian planning a story time. You should widely represent your organization. You know, it should be staff, maybe the people you serve can be part of a user group. And then you have to think about what's the meeting structure? What is your approach here? Are you meeting and you're all handing out different tools to do? Are you giving people homework after these meetings to do on, you know, kind of break from the group and then try things out? What might sample activities look like in an AI user group? Well, you might be evaluating a specific tool. You might say, today we're all going to try ChatGPT, right? It might be something like a specific tool and a specific task. I want you to use this, you know, use ChatGPT to try to come up with program names or program descriptions for a certain, you know, or yeah. So something more narrow in focus. You would be documenting your experience, figuring out what works, what doesn't, what might the use cases look like. You're trying to figure out what AI's place is in your specific organization. Everybody gets back and meets, and you report these findings. This tool worked, or this tool didn't, or this tool was very problematic about what it was asking for. This was wildly inaccurate, or hey, this was great, and I found it really useful for this. And all of these activities will place you in a spot to determine those future investments. Once you figure out what you can use ethically, what conforms to your library's policy, you can start to invest financially, potentially, in those tools. And the more important investment is here in staff, right? You can determine what, once you figure out what you're adding to the library and what the use cases are, you can engage in professional development. You can teach people how to use these tools in a way that's okay and safe. And then finally, once you've kind of, you know, evaluated the tool, so you have the policy in place, you've evaluated different tools, then you can move to adoption. You can actually put them to use in your library. So the sum total of this, an AI rollout, what does it look like? Well, you put the policy and procedure in place. You have a pool of staff that evaluate the tools and gain confidence using them. You then move on to selection. You pick what tools you've identified and which ones you're going to acquire. You train staff on these things. And that user group that you had that had those early opportunities to use these technologies, they will likely be your lead trainers as you train staff. They have the experience now on these tools. So you train staff, then you begin to use it in a patron-facing way. And you, as always, evaluate and reevaluate your use of AI, because they may update the terms of use in a way that you're no longer comfortable with certain tools. You may find that a tool that didn't look looked great, maybe is proving to be problematic. You continually evaluate and reevaluate your use of what is an emerging technology, one that changes rapidly. So we talked landscape and future. So what comes next when it comes to AI and AI in libraries? So this is a look at Windows Copilot. So the Windows operating system that runs so many of our computers has taken some of that ChatGPT type functionality, that natural language processing, and they're actually building it into the operating system itself. All right, so I'm not here to sell Windows products, but you can see how this is all going to, this is the next step, is generative AI is going to begin to insert itself into common software that we all use. So being able to have experimented on typing prompts, on interacting with artificial intelligence and that natural language processing, all of that comes together in that Microsoft Windows product, right? You saw how it can speak conversationally with you. You saw how you can use it to summarize documents, conversational search. All of those things come together. And that's where, again, it goes from that like really weird nerd stuff that most of us don't have access to all of a sudden it just becomes something that's omnipresent with us. The other thing that we're going to have to deal with, obviously now, but especially in the future, is AI and media literacy challenges. We're information professionals. We teach folks how to interact with information, how to critically evaluate information. We're hoping for a literate society and a media literate society. And generative AI tools have the potential to very easily create misinformation and disinformation. It's been called coding your own reality. You can just type the thing you want to see and it can make it. So here on my left, you see that there are images that are, to get a little meta, it's a fake moon landing. These are photos meant to tell us all that the moon landing was faked. It was done in Mid-Journey. They could tell it to use cameras of the time, cameras from the 60s. So it looks legit. It looks like they're on a soundstage pretending to land on the moon. We tend to be less likely to evaluate information critically when our emotions are high. And our emotions get high when we're talking politics. These are very divided times. These are fake photos of the former US president, Donald Trump, being arrested by the NYPD. That did not happen. He did not get dragged down to the floor at Times Square. That's AI generated images. And you can see now that generative AI is already being used in political campaigns and things like attack ads. Folks are going to come to us as librarians and ask us, is this real? Is this fake? And we need to train up so that we can, in fact, help folks navigate a new and confusing information landscape. And then internet blew up by me about the Pope wearing this bubble jacket, which it's not real. It's probably harmless, it's lighthearted, but we can see that misinformation and disinformation spread much more rapidly than the truth. And just like AI democratizes a lot of tools, it's now made many, many people, it's given people a lot of access to do a lot of harm, because these are powerful tools and it's difficult to critically evaluate this information now. One of the things I'm excited about with AI is that it creates new synergies. There's new ways that artificial intelligence can interact with other technologies, virtual reality, artificial reality. I'm going to show you an example of, now Google a few years ago had done augmented reality glasses, and they were not very good. They didn't really help. They made things more difficult. But now Google is working on the next generation of augmented reality glasses. This is wearable technology, and taking tools like Translate, okay, and breaking down language barriers. They're using AI's natural language processing, combining it with augmented reality and wearable technology to come up with like a universal translator tool. So I'm going to show you an example of that now.
My mother speaks Mandarin, and I speak English, which is a strange.
We'd love to be able to share with you a new prototype we've been working on. You should be seeing what I'm saying, just transcribed for you in real time, kind of like subtitles for the world.
What we're working on is technology that enables us to break down language barriers, taking years of research in Google Translate and bringing that to classes.
Do you see me? Oh, sí te veo. I'm actually looking straight into your eyes, and it seems like you're looking right at me. Oh, sí, estoy viendo lo que estás diciendo para ayudarte.
Making access to information just instant and intuitive. By doing that, technology fades into the background, and we're more connected with the people and the things around us. Giving people the gift of communicating with anyone, no matter what language they speak, I think is a really powerful thing.
So you can see the potential use for this, right? We work in a service industry. We work with people, and language is often a barrier. And this has the potential to be able to break down that language barrier. And as an accessibility tool, one of the languages it was translating was American Sign Language. It has the ability to process the visual data using the power of artificial intelligence and feed back the information in text. So there are new synergies with AI and AR that I think are potentially, life-changing for us and can really help us to serve the widest group possible. I want to point out too, you can see how this stuff can be used even for space planning. So I can put on glasses, right? And those same generative image prompts that made me make that silly cat wearing a cardigan working in a library. Think about that in a space planning situation where I can step into an empty room and describe an open office layout I'd like to see. Many of us end up doing facility planning, right? We have to figure out our spaces. And you'll be able to generate an overlay of images within your space in a 360 radius and plan space that way. So it'll work with text, it'll work with images. It's really a powerful tool. And then finally, this is the one where it's both in the here and now and in the future, which is library provided AI. So your community has lots of questions about how artificial intelligence works. Many of these tools are available without cost, although we need to be aware that oftentimes they're free because they're mining us for data. They're learning from us. They're using us as a product. But that said, one of the early things you can do, and also the future things you can do, is provide good information on how AI works, some of that early access, that digital equity that people can come in and use this stuff in your libraries, in your universities. But then when we reckon with what is the library's relationship with artificial intelligence, my humble suggestion is if we want to see ethical AI, then we may need to build it ourselves. I think the product that's developed with libraries, rather than us avoiding the technology, will be a superior one. I think of AI and these training models in the same way I think about a collection. So a collection of information. It requires continuous oversight. We need to take pains to make sure that the information presented within has diverse authorships, diverse perspectives, that we perform curation, we add new things to it, and we weed our books and our materials when the information is wrong or outdated. So it requires that as well, that quality control. This is potentially a force multiplier for libraries. We oftentimes talk about our website or our digital branches are open 24/7. Well, they are and they aren't, right? Because there's not people there behind the scenes 24/7. AI can potentially help staff a virtual branch. And I say help, it's not a replacement. Right now, so many AI tools are free. Increasingly, it's going to be a matter of the haves and the have-nots. There will be a cost to using the best tools. And libraries potentially can do what we do, which is pay to be able to provide community access. We do that with other technology. VR is a very expensive technology. A limited library investment allows many users to use that technology. Not everybody has access to a computer. The library invests in that expensive technology to provide community access. So we can be the folks that subsidize access to these powerful AI tools for the public as they develop further, as there becomes a level of tiered and paid access to these tools. Just some final thoughts, and then we'll take some questions. I want to remind everybody, AI is a tool. It's not a source. It's a way to interact with information. There are very few experts, and I put myself in that group. There are so many tools I haven't used. The technology and its place in libraries is so young. And that is why diverse perspectives are important. The way all of us individually with their unique perspectives will interact with the technology, the way we will build these training models together is going to be important. And that the knowledge represented by AI is one that is, is diverse perspectives. As you work on implementing these things into your libraries, policy and procedure need to be the priorities. You need to figure out what is AI's appropriate place in the library so you can then plan accordingly. And then just to reiterate, I think if we want ethical AI, we need to build it. We, as libraries, don't have a profit motive in the way that most companies do, right? So that's where we can step in. Elijah, I will send you my slides because separately within the PDF of this, I have provided a link to a resource list on AI in libraries that you're all welcome to use. And as I mentioned, I have a series of Midjourney prompts that I use to generate many of the images. For transparency's sake, you can see what prompts I use to create what images on what slides. And not a lot of technical information here, but the only technical piece might be when you see that -AR and then a number, that refers to an aspect ratio. That's kind of the size of the image. This is my contact information, and at this point, I am happy to take any questions we may have.
Thank you so much for this mind-blowing session. I believe everyone has learned something new about AI implementation and synchronization with library services. Permit me to welcome on board Mr. Temitayo Alake, who will be taking I believe by now you should have received all the questions and should be ready for presenting and answering. So thank you so much, sir. Mr. Alakitayo, please, are you with us? Mr. Temitayo Alake, are you with us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Please, you can
All
start
right.
asking the questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Tani. Thank you very much, Mr. Elijah. So the questions I have here, the first question is, how do libraries utilize the recommender system like Libby to enhance user experience?
I'm sorry, it's a little difficult to hear you. I think too, if there's any issue with that, it's not a bother to type it into the chat either, even as a direct message. But
all right, the question in that system like Libby to enhance user experience. Did you get that?
I got the tail end. Were we asking how we can use AI to enhance the user experience?
Yes.
Okay.
Utilize recommender systems like Libby, recommender systems like Libby to enhance users' experience.
So one of the things is a lot of the services so Libby is a service that my library uses just for ebook procurement, right? It's the ebook platform. And as they make investments in AI, that'll be its own enhancement, even without the libraries, taking specific action. In terms of individual enhancements for the user, it's tricky because one of the things AI can do really well, but it also makes us a little bit nervous, is that customization. Your individual needs and interests and way of speaking, because it's conversational, it learns from us. That's great, right? We always want to personalize our service, but that requires a certain amount of sacrifice on the privacy end. And that's always going to be the thing we have to kind of reckon with, is on the scale of privacy and convenience, where do we fall?
So the next question says, can you explain how collaborative filtering is employed in library recommender system? Can you give a brief explanation of how collaborative filtering is employed in library recommender system? Did you get that?
We can barely hear you. We can barely hear your question you're asking.
No.
Yeah, and again, it would not be a bother at all if you just want to just type the question, even if it was shortened, and drop it into the chat or a direct message. I'm happy to take it.
Okay, please, can you hear me? Can I take the question?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, we can.
The question says, can you explain how collaborative filtering is employed in library recommender system? Collaborative filtering.
Oh, can you explain how collaborative filtering is employed in the library recommender? That's not really an area of my expertise. So I would not be able to
answer that. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and that's where like AI is such a large, expansive topic that undoubtedly some of our listeners today will have areas of expertise that I myself do not have.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Another question says, what type of data are typically used by libraries to power the recommender system?
What types of data do we typically use to
power our recommender system?
Okay. So when you say recommender system, are you talking about like readers advisory tools or?
Yes. I think just like the libc showed us, when the user asks a question about an audio book, the system.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
It's not available. Okay. Thank you.
I got you. Yeah. So that particular service, again, our libraries use many different third-party services. That particular service is an audiobook and ebook provider that the library uses. They have integration with some of the more common voice-activated searches. So somebody that has a smartphone that's Android powered, they're using the the Google's voice assistant to search a platform called Hoopla or Libby, for example. And then it is simply doing the natural language processing to search its own database of books in order to do that. So while it's presented as a library experience, it's a third-party vendor. It's really multiple services. It's Google talking to Google's AI, talking to another third-party artificial intelligence that's running the that digital collection. And that is one of the complicating factors for us all is, for the end user, they think of the library as one unified experience. I'm checking out my library ebook. But in fact, the library ebook is the library paying for content from a digital licensor that also has their own rules and their own, in this case, AI-powered service.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question goes thus. What feedback mechanisms are in place to continuously improve the accuracy of recommendation system in libraries? Feedback mechanism, possibly for taking data analysis of user behavior using the recommendation system.
I'm sorry, I thought we had covered the recommender system itself.
Yeah, there are just questions prompted that we receive from users, from our participants. I think the person needs...
It's okay, Elijah. A little difficult to hear you. So I see that somebody typed in the question number 4 here. I'm going to jump onto that and then maybe we can clarify.
Okay.
So I see there's a question, how can libraries address concerns about user privacy? Oh, okay, I see that's a follow-up. I only had part of the question there. Yeah, how can libraries address concerns about user privacy while using the recommender system? Yeah, that's going to be important. And that's where one of your early things that we have to do is we have to set some guidelines ourselves, but then they have to also be enforceable. If we make a rule and we don't enforce it, is it really a rule? Taking the example of something like Libby, right, that we saw that I was able to ask and get a recommendation and go from there. I have to look at their terms of service and see what are they doing with the data. Is it stored locally in my user's smartphone app? Then I'm probably comfortable with that. Are they sharing that information with third parties? If they're not, if they're using it to authenticate the user and deliver a personalized experience, but that information isn't shared out, then it conforms with my library's privacy, right? The other piece of that is always what we call, informed consent. Does my user, my library user, are they aware of what information they're giving up? And do they have the ability to block or allow to curate their individual experience? So that's going to be an important piece of that. So informed consent, do they know what they're getting into basically when they do this? And then for the library, can I guarantee privacy? Can I guarantee that they're not sending or saving or selling the user preference to other people? There's ways to anonymize data. My library, and I'm sure all of you collect information about circulation. How often does a book go out? That's fine to know that a book went out 50 times. It's not fine to say that, Elijah checked out that book. That's nobody's business, right?
Okay, so I'll just allow you to go through the questions from the chat and answer them.
Sure. So I'm going to expand the chat here. I'm going to go up a bit and see where we're at.
Okay.
So I saw some questions about AI search engines. Some of the big ones right now are Bard. That's a Google-powered one. New version of Bing that's AI powered, and that one you can also send AI generated, you can have it generate images for you as well. Let's see what else. So I see, one person had asked a question about, the difficulty of implementing emerging technologies in thing, right? We don't have the money. It's not necessarily an expensive technology, right? The providing access for your users typically involves the internet. It's the trickier piece is managing the policy and procedure piece. So AI is actually one of these emerging technologies that you can provide access reasonably inexpensively. Most of your concern isn't going to be a financial one. It's going to be a data privacy one. It's going to be a policy question. Don't mind me. If it looks like my eyes are glazing over, it's because I'm reading. I see there were some questions about, and Elijah, I will send you my slides in a PDF format, and feel free to share those out to attendees. I see a question about AI chatbots. Now, I don't have one to recommend per se. There's a number of services, if you look around, that can create an AI chatbot. Functionally, you're able to scrape your own web page, and it can do some wayfinding pretty easily. Can give directional information. It can take the information from your page and answer basic questions, but you're always going to want to look at the terms of service for those. Now, there's paid options, certainly, that you can curate more, and I can't speak specifically to anyone, but that tends to be the trade-off. There's a saying that when something is free, then you are the product, right? So if you're getting an AI tool for free, it's because that AI tool is benefiting from your input. It's learning from you. It's training on your data. So you're doing it a favor. Don't think of them doing you a favor. You tend to be able to employ more custom controls on something like a chatbot if you yourself has purchased it, but that can be expensive depending on the number of queries, the number of interactions it is performing. And with a lot of this stuff too is, I know it's not our instinct with emerging technologies to say, okay, let's hold on and wait a minute. But if we hold on and wait a minute, you will see library-specific tools being developed. And because they want to market to libraries, they're going to naturally have to be more respectful of data privacy. When this stuff gets more established, kind of like when we looked at the internet in 1994, you won't have to have a ton of technical skill per se to build a chatbot in the way that right now it's more of a heavy lift, right? If you want to do it properly. Any other questions? My suggestion to everybody, again, is just to reiterate that while there's a certain amount of anxiety this stuff produces, right? Anytime a new technology comes out, there's a sense that we're falling behind or the sense of replacement, right? We went through the internet. We went through Google. When search engines, when the internet came up, we were told that libraries were obsolete, that we have the internet now. And I think we have found that that is not the case. And something like AI, I don't feel like I have more time on my hands than I had yesterday. I feel like my job is a never-ending to-do list, and some productivity tools are going to help me. I feel like the information landscape has become more complicated, not less complicated with the internet and now with generative AI. When we looked at that media literacy challenge. So the work remains, although some people will make bad faith arguments that libraries and librarians aren't needed. I see as a question on blockchain. I will not present myself as an expert on blockchain. I apologize. You know, other than having an authority record in the form of blockchain that you can, you know, that is helpful in terms of seeing if there's tampering, but is not my area of expertise. So anything else, let me know.
Okay, so there is this particular question of my own interest. It's about giving the AI prompts. You mentioned something about prompts.
So
it seems when you give the AI the right prompts, it returns the exact information you need. So how do you go about giving it the right prompts?
Right. So that's going to be one of the skills that I think we are going to need to develop. I've actually heard now the term AI literacy. It's the quality of information you get is going to be varied, and the quality of the prompt you put in is going to impact that, right? It's one of the things that in you know, I watch a lot of movies, right? And one of the kind of hokey things we see in a movie is somebody goes and visits like a wise man on a mountain, and they ask him a question. And usually they'll say something like, you're not asking the right questions. The information you get is going to be based on the quality of prompt you give. That's going to be an emerging field that we're going to see more options. Certainly, there are some prompt guides. And actually, I believe in the resource list that I'll supply, there are some how-tos regarding AI prompts with some of the generative AI tools, because that's absolutely a skill and one that the platforms here, there's not a lot of how-to, right? There's no how-to manual with this. So I think you're absolutely correct there, Elijah, in that, you know, it's still imperfect. You can still get a very bad result, even with a very well-written prompt, but the quality of information you retrieve is absolutely going to be impacted by the prompt that you put in. And the follow-up too, that's the other piece is, even if your prompt isn't great, you can have that conversation with an AI, with something like ChatGPT that you can clarify. And that limited memory that the AI has allows you to correct and allows you to proceed and say, no, you misunderstand me, and give follow-up information. So that is the other piece too, is yes, a good prompt will always yield a better result, but the ongoing conversational nature of AI will hopefully allow you to get to where you need to be over time.
Okay. So thank you very much. And participants, I hope all questions have been answered. Okay, I think all questions have been answered. May I also add this? Now, we have been advocating for information literacy. Then we move to digital literacy. I think we also need to start algorithm literacy now. Now that AI is embedded in our library community, librarians should try to equip themselves with algorithm literacy. I think this will, to a large extent, help our services to our clientele. So on this note, I want to say a very big thank you, and also invite Mrs. Ebenezer to appreciate our participants and most importantly, our facilitators.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, go on, we can hear you. Kindly appreciate our participants and our facilitator.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, or good day, everyone. My name is Mercy Ebenezer. So I want to, on behalf of the TechUp Librarians crew, appreciate our sincere gratitude to our speaker for facilitating this informative and engaging webinar. Let me say the valuable insights and knowledge of the artificial intelligence that you share have undoubtedly left a lasting impression on the minds of all the participants. So we also like to express our gratitude and appreciate all our participants who have contributed and participated to this seminar. We say a very big thanks to you all. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you once again. We look forward to more of such engaging session, and we hope to continue our association together. Thank you very much.
Okay. So thank you very much. We appreciate you. Please, a quick one. You can follow TechUp Librarians on all our social media platforms. It's just at TechUp Librarians. Then on LinkedIn, it is at TechUp Librarians Initiative. So the recording of this session will be provided. So we'll send you the link so you can have access to the entire recordings. So thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Nick. Thank you, Dr. Shola Olabi, and thank you all our participants. So this brings us to the close of the session.
Thank you.
We will share the slides. We'll send them to your email.
Yeah, so Elijah, I'll shoot you an email with the slides if that works, and you can share them out.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Thanks
Thank you very much. Thank you very much and goodbye. Thank you on behalf of
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting our channels today. Kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. Turn on your notification to receive new video alert. Like and share this content. Thank you. Thank you for visiting our channels today. Kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe to our channel. Turn on your notification to receive new video alert. Like and share this content. Thank you.